Hey, what's up guys? So unfortunately, my hood exhaust fan is broken. So in this video, I'm gonna be showing you how to remove and replace an existing hood exhaust fan. And in my case, I'm actually gonna be upgrading it so that it now vents to the exterior of my house. So I'm gonna show you everything that goes along with that. Let's get started. So the first thing you wanna do is make sure that all the power to the unit is off. I've got electricity meter here, so this guy will actually check to make sure there's no power in the wires. It's always a good idea to double check to make sure that the breaker you switched off is actually the right breaker powering your unit. Okay, I'm good, no power. So I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect the barrettes. Now, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is unscrew the 4 screws, likely 4 screws that secure the unit to the cabinet above it. This thing's free, I might be able to just slide it out. Looks like I'm a bit hung up on this electrical cord here. They've actually used the proper fitting. So they've used the proper fitting so the wire doesn't just freely slide out. It's okay, I might be able to just pop it out. Perfect. All right, there you have it. The old unit is removed. My electrical wire for the new unit's just hanging there. The next thing I gotta do is open up this cabinet and cut a hole inside of the house to work on the venting to the exterior. So I'm here with my hood exhaust fan that I'm gonna be installing in the kitchen upstairs, and at this point I'm deciding how I'm actually gonna vent the unit. In my case, I'm gonna be using the top vent. So there's a specialty attachment that came with the unit itself. That connects to a 3/4 inch by 10 inch exhaust duct, and I'm going to use a series of various fittings to connect to the vent that actually sticks on the side of my house. So all of this comes together very quickly and easily to form a weather-tight seal to exhaust the air from my stove outside. So the unit itself has a couple different knockout areas. So the sheet metal has prefabricated cutouts in it to match the venting application that you choose. Like I said before, there's a few different ways this can be set up. In my case, the knockout is right here. There's another one for a circular duct that could go right here, and then there's one at the back of the unit as well. So obviously choose the one that matches the way that you are completing the vent work. So when you pop this open, there's a few different like kind of tack weld spots, so just kind of work your way around the area of the pop out. Perfect. So this piece actually came with the vent. Yeah, there's obviously two ways you can install this thing, forwards or backwards. Check the instructions because it's got to open a specific way. And there's a little pre-drilled hole to install the screw that I just removed. So just to be extra thorough and make sure that all of the air is forced out of the vent and none of it escapes around the perimeter, I'm going to use some aluminum tape that's specifically meant for HVAC applications to seal up that joint along the edge. Now that I've got this all sealed off, I'm going to take my 3/4 inch by 10 inch duct cover and literally just slide it right over top. The last thing I do before I head back upstairs is remove the plug for the electrical outlet. So the back of my unit, there's a little metal pop out that you just kind of pry open with a flathead screwdriver. That's going to allow you to pass the electrical wire into the unit to supply power. In my case, so there's two options. You can go either from the top or from the back. Just the way that my electrical feed is running, I'm actually going to run the electrical feed through the back of the unit rather than the ductwork that's coming from the top. So just double check your setup and make sure you're removing the right knockout. To lay out the vent opening, I measured in the correct locations, and I actually used painter's tape to make sure that the markings are nice and visible, and I'm actually going to use that as a template for my cutting to make sure I'm cutting everything in the right spot. So the instructions give you some layout measurements to actually install the mounting screws, but honestly it's a lot easier to just kind of lift it up in place and hand mark it. In my case, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to bring in a helper to give me a hand to hold this thing in place while I make some marks on the cabinet. So we've got the screws all installed. The next step is to actually throw this thing up, mount it on the screws, and as I'm doing that, I'm going to run the electrical feed through the back of my unit. So I figured out that I need to cut the hole for the vent at about this location. What I've done is I've measured from a fixed point on the inside where I want the hole. So I measured everything with respect to this window on the inside, and I'm gonna mirror those measurements on the outside. So I'm about 27 inches from this point and about 6 inches up from this point here. So that, taking all that into account, puts my hole right about here, kind of right in between the boards, the battens of the board, so in this nice flat spot, and I should miss the stud on the inside when I put it there. So before I cut a giant 4-inch hole inside of my house, I'm gonna drill a test hole with this long drill bit, so that way I can verify that the hole's in the right location on the inside. So you can see here the location I've selected for the hole is actually pretty good. I've missed the studs, it's nice and centered in the cabinet. It's a little bit high, but that's okay. I'm gonna use that as the high point for my template that I use to cut the larger hole. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a piece of the 4-inch ductwork, and I'm gonna measure the opening that I wanna cut on the outside and cut it using my multi-tool. So this is the vent that's actually gonna be the final vent on the outside of the house. I'm gonna use this to make sure that I've got this thing positioned in a good spot between these battens and with respect to the hole. So I'm going to use that as the template for the hole I cut. So I was able to run a piece of 4-inch flexible ductwork through the hole I cut. Now I'm just going to simply take my vent cover, slide it in place, tape it up, and screw it to the side of the house. Now that the outside is all hooked up, I've got a few basic fittings to connect the inside flexible duct to the boot here, then it's all done. hope you learned a thing or two. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.